He, along with Ian Rappaport, my colleagues from NFL Network, broke this news earlier today. Tom Pelissero joining me here. Tom, why did the Bengals decide to finally make this move to try and get somebody to compete with Jake Browning or start? What's the plan here for Flacco, Tom?
The actual plan in terms of what this means this week, Rich, remains at least somewhat fluid at this point. No one that I've spoken to has spoken in definitive terms in terms of what happens this week. But what I can tell you is over the last 48 hours here, the Bengals really did canvass their options. There were a lot of discussions. There were phone calls made to different teams. In the end, Joe Flacco was not one that I had exactly top of mind that they potentially would go for. A 40-year-old quarterback who was benched 1 week ago today in favor of a rookie third-round draft pick, in part because Joe and the Browns' offense had not played particularly well. But here's why this makes sense for Cincinnati. My understanding is they never really went down the road on, for instance, Kirk Cousins. With Kirk Cousins, you're talking about significant draft capital, significant money, and no trade clause that he would have had to waive. They didn't go down the road with the Giants on Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston. They end up getting Joe Flacco for a pick swap, 5th and 6th rounders being swapped in 2026. It's a pretty low-level type of a deal. And what this does is this gives them at least an option if Jake Browning were to continue to struggle. Now, is it possible that Zach Taylor could come out tomorrow and simply say, hey, we're rolling with Joe Flacco immediately? It's certainly possible, but I think that the more likely scenario, Rich, frankly, at this point is this is sort of Jake Browning's last shot. Go out there, play like you did in the second half, or at least the fourth quarter of the game last week. Stop turning the football over. They do believe in Jake Browning. They've seen him win before. But Joe Flacco is an upgrade over the other quarterbacks on the roster. Brett Rippon, Sean Clifford on the practice squad, Mike White, who they cut off the practice squad this morning. Flacco's played a lot of football. He played against the Bengals in week 1 and at least played well enough that they had a chance, if not for a missed field goal, to pull off an upset in week 1 for Cleveland. So again, this is sort of a low risk and they hope, let's say, medium reward type of a situation for a Bengals team that's got one goal in mind here, Rich, which is stay alive. Stay alive until mid-December, start of January, whenever it is that Joe Burrow could come back. They're in second place in the AFC North because obviously a couple of teams have really struggled. The Ravens are all kinds of beat up. They're chasing a Steelers team that is 3-1, and the Bengals, by virtue of winning those first 2 games, they're still in the playoff picture here. It's a fascinating move. You don't see these types of intra-division trades very often, but on the flip side of that, you don't see many times the team's trying to get by for 3 months without their franchise quarterback. And the other team wants to clear the decks and have an all-rookie depth chart, which is what Cleveland's got now.
Okay, so let's talk about the Browns part of it. Again, I know you're busy, and then I'll let you go on with your day, and you're back on the show on Thursday. And then you're guest hosting Friday and next week while I'm in London with me chiming in every now and then. So what are the Browns doing? What do you think? Is it Shedeur now, is second string? I know Bailey Zappi's on their practice squad. And Deshaun Watson, we've seen him on a practice field every now and then. What's the Browns' plan here moving forward, do you think?
Well, starting off on Deshaun Watson, he's coming back from 2 Achilles tears. That's a very long rehab process. Obviously, he's been documenting that on his social media. I have not gotten the sense that anything is imminent in terms of Deshaun Watson getting back on the field. Bailey Zappi's in his second run now on Cleveland's practice squad. But this does really clear the space now that for everybody saying, why isn't Shedeur Sanders the number 2 quarterback? Well, now here it is. And the expectation would be that he is going to be the one who backs up Dylan Gabriel starting this week, for the Browns. So, with Shedeur Sanders, I know a lot's been made. I watched Gerald McCoy talk about it on your show on Sunday morning, Rich. What are they doing with, having Shedeur and saying that he's going to play eventually? That's always been the plan. Jimmy Haslam flat out said it in training camp, which is they want to see both these guys figure out what they have And then as we get toward next year and the fact they've got 2 first-round picks, you at least know, do we think we have something that we can work with here? Joe Flacco, barring an injury, Dillon Gabriel was not going to get back on the field this season. Credit to Andrew Berry for getting something for a player that you wouldn't think just on the surface you'd be able to get something for here. But again, this was always the plan, was to see both these quarterbacks. You certainly saw some good things from Dillon Gabriel last week. You saw some not so good things in this game. It's not short term. They're not yanking him mid-game this week to go to Shedeur, but they want to get a full evaluation on both these players. This brings them one step closer to doing that.
Okay, so the likelihood of this week, it's Browning starting in Green Bay for Cincinnati with a last chance saloon message, because Flacco's there as the backup, learning the playbook, while in Cleveland, it's 2 rookies going to go 1-2 into Pittsburgh for the 1-4 Browns, who are waiting to see if Watson's in any way, shape, or form ready to come back this year. Tom, that's the likely scenario for week 6.
That would appear to be it.
Okay.
Still no guarantee that we see Deshaun Watson on the field at all in 2025 for a variety of different reasons. He's got 1 more year and $46 million left on that contract. Obviously, they got to amortize a ton of the bonus proration still, and they'll be feeling that effect on their cap for the next couple of years. But they've made some adjustments in terms of how they're going to be able to account for that moving forward with voidable years and the like. In terms of the Browns quarterback situation, yes, it's Dillon Gabriel this week. I would anticipate Shedeur Sanders being the number 2 quarterback. We'll see if they end up signing Bailey Zappi to the active roster to serve as the 3, just to have a 3rd quarterback in uniform. And for Cincinnati, it's not easy, Rich, to get traded on a Tuesday at quarterback,
right,
and go and start on a Sunday. I mean, Baker Mayfield got claimed off waivers years ago by the Rams and started a couple of days later. Those stories are few and far between here. Again, I've talked to a number of people involved in this situation. No one has said definitively what Cincinnati's quarterback situation is going to be this week, and Joe Flacco's only win as the Browns started this season happened to come over the Packers, who now his new team is facing this week. I would just say with Jake Browning, it would make sense. And honestly, if you're Jake Browning, a trade for Joe Flacco is the best scenario of all the different player acquisition scenarios. In other words, you didn't go out and pay, for instance, a Ryan Tannehill a bunch of money to come in, and you know that the clock is ticking. You didn't give up picks and give money for a Kirk Cousins, who the clock is ticking. Jake Browning, if he does get the opportunity to start this week, which I would categorize as more probable than not, though we have not heard from the decision makers, and again, I've not gotten a straight answer on that to this point, the odds are he's going to be the starter once again this week. If he plays well, maybe you've just got a good, solid number 2 in Joe Flacco, and Jake Browning can hold down this job. What the Bengals couldn't do was sit there, and Brett Rippon's a great guy. He's hung around for a long time because of that, because he's a smart guy you like having in a room. But in his limited opportunities to actually play, he's not performed at that level. Joe's had a lot of success. The guys who run this style of offense have always liked Joe Flacco because he has that quick twitch in his arm, because he can read it and process and get the football out quickly. He has shown over time, not so much this season, but he has shown over time that he can manage a game. Jake Browning's got to get better at that. People talked about, should they trade for Jameis Winston? Well, you just got a 3-touchdown, 3-interception stat line from Jake Browning, which is probably what you get from Jameis. You're not changing a whole lot there. And I don't know that anybody's sitting there and going, well, Joe Flacco's a clear upgrade over Jake Browning. This is not, I won't say it's a message being sent to Browning. It's the Bengals saying, hey, we got to get somebody else in here who we would trust to go out there and play. If it continues to look like, a turnover-riddled mess with Jake Browning, then you might see Joe Flacco here sooner than later.
Tom, appreciate the 2 cents. I know you're Zooming with Suze when I'm flying to London on Thursday, and then you're guest hosting Friday, and then Monday, and Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week. Appreciate your time, and we'll see a lot of you on this program. Thanks, Tommy.
Can't wait.
Tommy P, everybody, right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Everybody for giving us the 2 cents that we required.
Dang.
Hey, you made it all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Check us out every single day streaming live on Disney Plus and the ESPN app 12 to 3 Eastern.